The statistics are a signal, not a sentence, and they tell us that we must act earlier, listen more carefully, perhaps support more intentionally, and stop waiting for crisis before we pay attention.
Welcome to the Autism Channel, where we journey with Carmen to raise autism awareness and move steps closer to inclusivity. Join us as we meet community members, share stories, and explore initiatives that make a real difference.
Thank you. Thanks for that kind, warm introduction. It's a pleasure to be here and immensely intimidating to see most of these seats filled up. When I was asked to give this keynote, my first instinct was to decline, but Dr. Amber is persuasive, shall we say. Not because I didn't want to be here, I very much did, but because I was genuinely unsure what I had to offer. But then I realized that that's exactly the point. I'm not here because I'm special, I'm here because I'm not. What I have to share today is simply a testimony, a faithful retelling of a journey. It's not a template, not a blueprint, just something for you all to sit with, something that you might find useful. So let me take you back. I failed my 11 plus. I got 10 B's and C's at GCSE at age 16, 4 B's and C's at A level at age 18. I applied to 6 universities, which is what you can do in the UK, and I got rejected from all of them. At 22, I applied to over 15 graduate schemes across banks, Cazenove, Morgan Stanley, Citigroup, Goldman Sachs, Barclays, all of them that you can think of. Every single one of them said no. And actually what I really wanted to do was not even that. I wanted to become a veterinary surgeon. I obviously didn't get there yet. But there's nothing triumphant in any of those lists. By any conventional measure, and certainly by the standards of Hong Kong, I would say, I was unremarkable, less than mediocre, if we're all honest. And at that point, it would have been entirely reasonable to conclude that I was not cut out for high-pressured environments, ambition, leadership, none of that. But life, as it turns out, has a habit of redirecting you. So without a job, I fell into the world of hacking accidentally. I was good at computers, and I ended up in an attic space in a townhouse next to the British Museum in London, doing ethical hacking. Amongst a group of 6 chaps, I will always remember 5 p.m. every day we would log off and play Quake, a computer game. That was my life, that was my career as it started. But something unexpected happened in that. I was good at it, not just technically, but it suited the way that my mind works. It rewarded precision, pattern recognition, persistence, and a kind of brutal honesty about systems, and you're telling your clients where they're rubbish. That suited me pretty well. These aren't traits that I have developed through training. They were simply how I thought. And for the first time, the environment around me matched the way my brain was wired, rather than the other way around. It was George Bernard Shaw that wrote, "The reasonable man adapts himself to the world, while the unreasonable one persists in trying to adapt the world to himself. Therefore, all progress depends on the unreasonable man." I've thought about that a lot over the years because I think what Shaw was really describing is relatable to people with autism. Not a flaw, not a deficit, a different kind of orientation, one that the world often struggles to accommodate, but which, in the right environment, becomes something else entirely. Each one of us in this room already know that autistic people are not broken versions of neurotypicals. We are vital ingredients to the world's ecosystem. The research increasingly bears this out. Deep focus, logical thinking, systems thinking, pattern recognition, an affinity for working through complexity without the need or without the ability to socially perform. These are not theoretical strengths, they are practical ones. They show up in the work and they show up in this room today. Over time, typing on a keyboard became a career. It paid for food. Banking technology, cybersecurity, operations, risk management, a couple of senior roles across Asia, Europe and the Americas. Large teams, decisions with consequences. None of that happened because I overcame autism. It happened because of it. Around 5 years ago, with the support of my employers, I shared my diagnosis with the trusted senior leaders. And at the time, I didn't expect it to travel beyond them, but news often leaks. And perhaps it was because of my Chinese Hong Kong heritage. You can tell I sound very British, as that's where I was brought up. But I count myself blessed to have my father from Hong Kong and my mother from Malaysia. And that particular intersection of my identity and neurodiversity often doesn't get much airtime. Perhaps because people simply recognize something familiar in the story. The struggle, the confusion, the loneliness that can live behind a functioning exterior. I wasn't doing something remarkable. I was simply sharing a single perspective. But I learned something important from that experience. People are hungry for honesty. Not polish, not a curated version of resilience. Actual honesty. The kind that admits that things do get hard. And they're hard, and that's okay. But life doesn't stay static. 3 years ago, it changed again. I remember being in Hong Kong at the time. I received that phone call that no parent would ever want. A head teacher calling me to tell me that my eldest daughter, Caitlin, had died at boarding school. She was 16 and she had taken her own life. My world turned upside down at that point. I stopped working, and even after I buried her, I tried to return to some degree of normality, but I couldn't. So I was returned back to Hong Kong to recover. Caitlin also had autism. We were similar. We shared a particular depth of understanding, the kind that doesn't always need words. That special bond between a parent and a child. I remember we would go walking on hikes in Hong Kong, and we would just be silent the whole time, and that we loved that. But there's been a gap in my heart. I tell you this not for sympathy, because it's the most honest thing I can offer. Because the statistics that we often cite, 1 in 7 autistic individuals experience suicidal thoughts. The 22% who consider plans or attempts of suicide. These ceased to be abstract numbers and statistics to me. Those statistics turned into my daughter. That kind of grief, it doesn't sit politely in the background. It changes your posture, your energy, your relationship with time and what you think is important. It strips away any illusion that we were ever in control of outcomes, of other people, of life itself. I have resolved not to give up. Not because I'm strong in any particular way, or not because I have some special reservoir of fortitude, but because simply giving up is not a choice that I want to make for myself. That, I think, is what resilience actually is. Not the absence of pain, or not the performance of recovery, but the decision to continue in spite of it. To even come here today, even when you might not feel like it. And this is why I care so deeply about this conversation, about autism and neurodiversity and what this group represents today at the Autism Community Summit. It's why I'm honored to be here with all of you today. The autism conversation, it stops at diagnosis, at what needs to be managed or accommodated or corrected, but there is so much more than that. If we're serious about supporting autistic people, then we must also be serious about mental health, about belonging, about nurturing environments where people don't merely survive, but they can thrive. The statistics are a signal, not a sentence, and they tell us that we must act earlier, listen more carefully, perhaps support more intentionally, and stop waiting for crisis before we pay attention. But I also want to be clear, this is not a conversation about vulnerability. Think about someone like Elon Musk. He divides opinion, certainly, but he has a mind capable of obsessive focus, first principles thinking, willing to challenge assumptions. Whether you admire him or not, these cognitive traits are not incidental to his work. They are central to it. Or consider someone like Greta Thunberg, her ability to hold clarity to an environmental mission in the face of pressure, in spite of her age, refusal to dilute a message that she holds so close. That stubbornness is a strength. But these people are no different from many other autistic individuals. These people demonstrate that autism doesn't remove potential, it shapes it. And when the environment is right, when it genuinely accommodates rather than merely tolerates, what gets unlocked can be remarkable. So let me bring us back to where I started. I don't need to be standing here today because each and every one of you are sitting before me already. We are the same. I know rejection, I know failure, I know grief, I know the nagging sense that the world hasn't yet caught up with us. But if there's one thing, one single thing that I've learned on my journey, it's to keep going. Not heroically, not tidily, just to keep going. To go to sleep, to wake up and do the best with the day that lies ahead of us. That's resilience. It's not invulnerability, but it's the decision to continue no matter what, in spite of the pain that is part of being alive. And so I want to close, not with a call to action, just to share a message with you in the room. If we improve how autistic people are treated in schools, workplaces, healthcare, and families, if we do that well and honestly and persistently, we don't merely reduce harm. We can unlock talent. We can reduce isolation. We strengthen community. We make the world a better place than it would otherwise have been without us. Autistic people are simultaneously remarkable and entirely unremarkable. We're humans on the journey of our lives. We show up each day and do the best with whatever we can and with whatever that day holds. That is not exceptional, that is merely the human condition. So my hope is that each of you today starts with a renewed conviction that our task is not to make autistic people imitate the world as it is, but to help them participate fully and freely in the world that we all share. And so it's with that I want to thank you and wish you all a great day ahead.